Twice a month, Paula Pant, host of the Afford Anything podcast, answers questions the listeners sent in. Today, her partner in crime, Will, joins in the fun. Here's one now.
Hey Paula, my name is Alexandra. I'm 27 years old and my husband just turned 30. We have 2 kids, one who's 5 and one who's 4, and we purchased our first home about 2 years ago. We currently owe about $203,000 on the home, and our neighbor recently sold for $265,000. We're thinking about selling the house because we'd like to dramatically change our lifestyle and stop just working and taking care of the kids and really being able to live. So we're thinking we could walk away with about $40,000 that we'd like to put down on an investment property, a multi-unit property that we would maybe live in one of the units for a while we rent the other units and continue to repeat that process until we have enough profit that we could cover our living expenses and then spend some free time traveling the world. We just wanted to know what your advice is on how we can get started on this process. And what do you think about us selling the home? Thank you.
All right. Hey, so the first thing I want to say is that you're doing a great job already. You're 27 years old and you've got about $40,000 worth of equity in your house. That's congratulations. I would clap, but it would cause an echo on my microphone. So you just imagine me clapping inside of your head.
Steve, clap in post.
So kudos to you for being where you are and for wanting to take the next step and go even further with that. A couple of things that I would say right off the bat. Number one, given that you want to live in this property, now normally, I'm going to backtrack even before I've said the thing that I've just said, right? Normally, as a general rule, I very much encourage people to buy rental properties anywhere within the state, region, country. Go where the money is, go where the returns are. If you happen to live in a very expensive area, not a big deal. Buy where the money is, go where the money is. Now, in your particular situation, because you want to buy a multi-unit and live in one of the units, of course, there need to be properties in your area that are worth the hassle, basically. There need to be good rental properties in your area. And so that's the first question that I would ask. Are there good multi-units in the area? And so the logical follow-up question becomes, how do I know if a rental property is good or bad? I use a formula called cap rate or capitalization rate in order to determine this. And cap rate, essentially what it is at the high level is it's a measure of what the returns on the asset are. So given the value of the asset, meaning the value of the home, what are the unleveraged cash returns on that asset? Essentially, cap rate is analogous to the dividend that you would get on a stock.
Yeah, I mean, from a technical standpoint, I completely agree with that. I think what I would add is I would really want to think through before I did this. I think this can be a great plan. Mm-hmm. I would really want to think through it. Number one, make sure you and your husband are both on board with the same vision. It can be a little challenging to live in a house that you're also sharing with tenants, sharing it in the sense that they're going to be in different units, but there is a tendency to sort of feel like you're at work at all times because your tenants live right next door to you.
Right.
So you got to be okay with that. And, your whole family really needs to be on board with it. And what I mean by on board with it is I think you need to both be really on the same page, and it needs to be, really a shared dream in terms of why it is you're doing that, because that'll make it a lot easier.
Right.
Also knowing kind of what your plan is. I think generally speaking, you're allowed to do this once every year or two by most loan standards. You'd have to look into it.
Well, generally what the rule is that so the benefit to buying your suggestion, which is buying a multi-unit property and living in one of the units, is that if the property has 4 or fewer units, meaning it's a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, you can qualify for a loan as a primary resident, which means that with a primary resident loan in conventional financing, that's typically where you'll get the best interest rates, the best financing terms. So that's one of the big advantages.
Right.
It's also generally easier to qualify for a primary resident loan than it is for an investor loan.
Yeah, they're not going to want to see a business plan and history of rental management and all that stuff. They're just going to...
Exactly. So yeah, in terms of financing, what you're proposing, which is living in a multi-unit, is the best deal. Typically, banks are going to want to see you live there for at least 1 year in order to qualify for a primary resident loan.
Right.
But, I mean, if you're going to move in there anyway, I doubt you're going to move out in less than a year.
Right, exactly.
Because moving's a hassle.
Exactly. So I think this can be a great strategy as long as you and your family are very aware of the challenges and the struggles of it. It can be a bit of a sacrifice. If the end goal is worth the sacrifice, then that can be very motivating. So,
yeah, I would agree with that. I would say you and your husband should talk about, in terms of the day-to-day management of it, assuming that you're going to manage it yourself, which if you live there, I assume you probably are, at least during the time in which you are living there. Have that plan sketched out before you move in. So, who is in charge of responding when a tenant comes to you with a maintenance request? Who is in charge of, even if you're going to hire contractors, who's in charge of finding those contractors and making the call and scheduling them? Once you move out and you get a property manager to come take over, that property manager is going to do everything, which is why I freaking love having property managers. It makes my life great. But, if you're going to be living in the building, I mean, when you and I lived in that triplex in Atlanta.
We had it all worked out from the very beginning, and there were never any problems.
Yeah.
We were perfect the first time.
Sure. Hashtag not. But we managed the triplex ourselves because we lived there. So it didn't make sense not to. But to go back to my earlier comment about calculating cap rate and calculating returns, when you are making those calculations, run those calculations as though you are outsourcing everything. So run the numbers as though all of the management, the maintenance, every single aspect of the work is getting outsourced. And you're going to do that for two reasons. Number one is because you are evaluating an investment rather than trying to buy yourself a job. And number two, the goal is to let math be math. And the only way that math can truly be math is if it is identity agnostic, meaning that math should never depend on the identity of the individual who is performing a task. So, if you value your own time at 0 and you value a property manager's time at 10% of gross, well, then you're changing a variable, which throws off the whole equation. So, in the show notes, which are available at affordanything.com/episode 78, I'm going to link to an article that explains exactly how to calculate cap rate. affordanything.com/episode 78. That's where you'll see the formula for cap rate. But right now on a podcast at just a very high level, conceptually, that's the number one thing that I would say is, make sure that the property that you are looking at is a good rental property. Yeah, because if it's not a good rental property, then why bother?
Yeah, make sure the numbers work. Make sure it works with your life and your goals. And this can be a really great thing. I mean, we wouldn't be where we are today without our first property that we bought together, which was a multifamily.
Yeah, exactly.
It was huge. So it can really catapult you if you get the right one.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what we did. We bought a triplex. We lived in one of the units with roommates and then rented out the other two.
Yeah.
And that was how we got our start.
Yep.
Hey, did you enjoy this excerpt from the Afford Anything podcast? Then click to download our free ebook, Escape. You'll be taken to a page where you can enter your email for immediate access to everything you need to know about escaping the 9-to-5 grind to live life on your terms. And you can also subscribe with one simple click to get alerted when new videos are uploaded.